So welcome, folks, to this Brown Bag Lunch, which we're hosting in partnership with Alterna Savings, who's been a longtime partner of us at the Hub. My name is Gina Babinek. I'm the Programs Lead at Impact Hub Ottawa. I'm going to encourage you just for a moment to go to Gallery View. So Gallery View, you can toggle that at the very top of your window. That way we can see everyone who's joined and who has chosen to show their face. No pressure to those of you who don't want to show your face, that's totally fine. But for those of you who do, put up your hand if you are a member of the Hub, if you're a Hubber. Hey, oh wow, Chris is super excited. 2 hands from Chris, that's good. Awesome, so Impact Hub Ottawa is a collaborative co-working space and community based in downtown Ottawa, which of course is on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. It's really important for us to recognize where we are on this land, because we do know that so much of the things that we preach and try to practice are things that are really normal and natural and very much a part of the way of life for people who are Indigenous to this land. And so as we learn more every day about what that means, what it means to live on this land responsibly, it's important for us that we recognize that. And so, so we're excited here to be joined with all of you for this weekly Brown Bag Lunch, which we've been doing virtually since sometime in April or maybe even late March. It's great to have you here. Alterna Savings is a partner of ours. Nalisha, who is on the call, is one of our experts in residence, as is Jonathan, who is also on the call. Jonathan, hands up. It's great to have you here because we are excited about this topic. Can banking be an act of activism? I'm excited to find out. I know that that some of you may already have an answer in mind, but yeah, we're going to learn a bit more today about how choosing where and with whom you bank can impact your local community and how you can make decisions about who to bank with based on your values and things like that. So we're going to be joined by Ali Daniel, who's also in the call. Ali, maybe you want to put up your hand.
Hello.
Along with Nalisha. So Ali has a background in the nonprofit sector and consulting. She offers strategic support for corporate initiatives at Alterna Savings, whereas Nalisha has built her career at Alterna Savings Credit Union with more than 9 years in the financial industry, lots of experience in retail and community banking. They both are passionate about leadership, social entrepreneurship, and the nonprofit and charitable sector, and we are so lucky to have them here with us today. As I mentioned, feel free to update your name to indicate your preferred pronouns. That'll make things a little easier for us in the Q&A. And you're also welcome to introduce yourselves in the chat. Nalisha and Ali, do we have time in your presentation to do a quick round of hellos, or would you rather we jump right in and encourage people to introduce themselves in the chat?
I think maybe, I'm just looking, we're 10 minutes in, maybe introduce in the chat.
Let's do that, yeah.
And then, because we do have some time towards the end for questions, and I'd love to hear from everybody, but I just think
yeah,
it's a lot of information, so let's just jump in.
Let's jump in. All right, over to you two.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that great intro, Gina. So I do want to just start with a disclaimer. So a lot of the information that we're going to be speaking upon is going to be based off of Alterna Bank and Alterna Savings, and that's mainly because that's our expertise, and that's where our knowledge is based off of. But a lot of the points and information that we speak upon can be related to any financial institution. It's just the examples that we're able to pull upon for this presentation, okay? Also, just quickly, there are 2 scenarios where we're going to be asking for a poll, and the way we're going to ask for your engagement is, yes, the chat, but also towards the bottom, you'll see like a small little happy face for reactions. You'll have 2 options. One is clap and one is a thumbs up. So we're going to take the clap as no for an answer and the thumbs up as a yes. We'll definitely give you some direction when we ask those questions, but just to kind of give you a heads up so you can locate where it is so you can promptly answer. Okay, so today we're going to speak on, can banking be an act of activism? So just quickly about Alterna Savings and Alterna Bank, for any of you that don't know who we are or what we do. We are a full-service financial institution. We offer all of the same products and services that you would find at any financial institution. Alterna is made up of Alterna Savings and Alterna Savings Credit Union rather, and Alterna Bank. The difference is the credit union is our provincial financial institution, and Alterna Bank is our national online financial institution. The main difference between a bank and Alterna Savings Credit Union is that the individuals who hold accounts, they're known as members, and each member holds a share at the credit union. No one has more shares than anyone else, so we're all equal. Alterna Savings is open bonded, meaning anyone can become a member. Being a member, you have a direct say in regards to how the organization is run. For example, you get to vote for our board of directors as well as changes and updates to our bylaws. And our profits that are made at the credit union are given back to our members as well as our communities that we serve in the form of grants, community programs like our award-winning microfinance program, as well as special interest rates, as well as special and limited time investment products. Just a few perks, you know? So how are we different? At Alterna, we have a dedicated department for the nonprofit, charitable, and community sector, known as our Community Impact Department. The department's goal is to work to strengthen the financial resilience of these organizations from said, or rather mentioned, sectors. We have over 3,500 nonprofits and charities that have chosen to bank with us, yay. The investments, reserve funds, their operating accounts, their mortgages from those organizations are all contributing towards strengthening the sector. We are committed to supporting the community, and as a credit union, we're able to provide, like I mentioned, all of the same products and services that you would find at a big bank. Many times we're able to provide those services through third-party service provider partnerships with organizations like Global Payments, Calabria Financial, and EFT Canada. One thing to note in regards to how we're different is we report on our social impact, not just our financials. At Alterna Savings, we're investing in the economic development of communities through our award-winning microfinance program, like I mentioned before, our micro loan fund partners, as well as our unique community account offerings. So in today's presentation, we're going to be speaking about values that matter to you, your business, or your organization that you're related with, and the ways to choose a financial institution that meets those values as well as your account needs. It's important to ensure that your financial institution, A, meets your needs and aligns with your values, as well as B, provides products and services that you and your organization needs. We'll also go over how to uncover, how to address and identify barriers, and what steps to take to improve your business's financial profile. So, choosing where and who you bank with has an impact on your local community. Banking can be an act of activism, so there's our answer to our question. So banking can be an act of activism if you're more conscientious and active about making the change to a new financial institution. So a great place, oh, am I frozen? Okay, a great place to start is with the Sustainable Development Goals. What I would recommend is take a look at what the goals are. What goals are important to you as an individual, and what are you working towards? And then take a look at your business or maybe the organization you're a part of, and what is the organization or business working towards? What goals are important to them? What aligns with that business or organization? Now, once you've kind of addressed that and you figure out what's important to you, what are your values, take a look at your financial institution. What are they working towards? What are their goals? What is their mission statement? What is their value? Now, once you've kind of addressed all of that, where is the alignment between you, your business or your organization, and your financial institution? Like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of our examples are going to be based on Alterna Savings and Alterna Bank. So we have listed here what Alterna is working towards. So we have good health and well-being, quality education, decent work and economic growth, sustainable cities and communities, as well as partnerships for the goals, like our partnership with Impact Hub.
So I'm going to jump in here. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Gina, too. My name's Allie. So I'm going to jump in here off of what Alicia was saying and talk about how we ultimately, this isn't specific to the financial industry necessarily, but we know that all businesses, including the businesses that you're starting or you're part of, have a responsibility to use your business for good, or at least that's my belief, and actually contribute back to the community and affect change. And there are many ways to do that. So I'm going to position it from a financial institution standpoint, but diving right into the one that is probably the most obvious is corporate donations and sponsorships. So, most of us probably hear about the large banks who thankfully have a lot of money to give. To either one organization in a large sum or many organizations in smaller sums. So the key question about the corporate donations and sponsorships is, who are they giving it to? Do you resonate with the organization that they're giving their money to? Why, and actually dig into their why, or pull it back to those social sustainable development goals and see the alignment with the donations and the funding that they're contributing back into the community. Second, maybe not as obvious, something that, not to toot our own horn, but I think that Alterna does really well, is actually being able to create an accessible banking offering for people of all different socioeconomic statuses. And there are many different ways to go about that to actually build financial equality. And I mean, Alicia's mentioned it a couple of times now, but through programs such as microfinance, loan funds, anti-predatory lending, financial literacy programming, which, as you can see on the slide, we also have financial literacy. So, is the financial institution investing in education and programming and actually building up our country's people and businesses to become more financially literate and financially safe, really. So another thing that we can think about and is very relevant to us in today's age is responding to urgent issues. So with COVID-19 and the pandemic, how has the financial institution responded to such an emergency? How are they keeping their employees and their members or customers safe? Or social justice issues with the Black Lives Matter movement, how have they responded to that? Is that actually aligned with what you believe is appropriate action? Moving on to equal representation in leadership, of course, we know that diverse perspective is critical for any business to create equitable society. And we need champions at senior levels of these businesses to advocate for individuals in communities with lived experience and who have faced challenges. So, the key question here is there representation from equity-seeking groups? Are there women? LGBTQ community, are they well represented? Are they fully accessible? All those questions that we would consider for any business or just individual that we want to become close with, those are important for your financial institution too. And finally, supporting the not-for-profit and charitable sector. And Alicia did already point on this from an Alterna perspective, but really, is your financial institution, do they have specific products and services to strengthen community-based organizations? Do they engage in supporting impact investing, and social purpose real estate? Are there cost reductions for such organizations? Really looking at the ways that they're taking action to affect change. So, as I said, this is, Alterna does a mixture of all of these, but no one's perfect, and the approach is different for financial institutions. So it really just comes down to which of these six, or which are more important to you and your business. So go for it, Alicia.
I was just gonna type out the poll, but so how does where you choose to bank have a positive impact on your community. So now that we've kind of gone through the values and how to address what's important to you, what's important to your business or your organization that you're related to, and then as well as your financial institution, we now prompt you to take some time to figure out where's the alignment, what is important to you. And I think what we're going to ask, I'm just thinking because
we just put it in the chat. But
yeah.
Is there anyone, we'd love to have some discussion, as Alicia said, I mean, questions at the end, but also discussion. You know, when we presented all of those different ways that financial institutions can affect change, what resonated with you? And have you actually ever thought of any of these things in relation to your financial institution? You know, do you have a position? Do you feel that your current financial institution is aligned with your values?
I just know I'm sharing my screen. So if I pull up the chat, that's all we're going to see right now.
I think you might be able to pull up the chat, Alicia, and it'll show up in a separate window because your screen is only being shared on that one frame. But
let's see.
I can definitely jump in. I mean, I don't even think about this question, and I think about a lot of things like where I buy my clothes, what kind of food I'm getting, where I'm working, you know, who we partner with. But it's funny that the banking piece has never occurred to me.
Yes.
You just assume banks are out to get us, you know, banks are out to dupe us.
Right.
No way. And so, yeah, I mean, you raise a really good point. Is it even on your radar? And I think the fact that it hasn't been means that my bank has not been doing a great job of communicating their values with me, at least. But we've got a couple of great comments here. Robin's asking, do you find most of these factors are available online, or do you have to dig a bit? And maybe, Robin, do you mean the values, or if you wanted to jump in and clarify, go ahead.
Hey, it's Robin here. Yeah, I meant the values. Like for someone trying to look into it, do you find that it'll be readily available from like one or two quick Google searches, or is this one of these things that, like, you know, the common person really needs to dig in deep?
So I think it's a mix of both. It depends. It's going to vary based on every financial institution. Usually they have like their mission statement kind of embedded in their About Us landing page online. But it's also in regards to maybe some of their press releases in regards to what they're doing in the community, the charities and nonprofit organizations that they're working with. You can tell what their goals are. Like, are they trying to deal with food insecurity? Are they trying to, like, that's how you'll be able to find it and kind of relate it back to the SDGs. But I think there might be some digging depending on the FI that you're doing your research on. And sometimes it'll be readily available. Of course, like with credit unions, our annual reporting, it's readily available. With banks, there are some digging, not to toot our own horn, but that's an example. But I do think for the most part, it is readily available. Does that answer your question? I kind of talked and looped, I'm sorry.
And I'm just gonna add one thing. Yeah. So my name's Alia, I'm with Alterna, just so we know. I'm the director of the Community Impact Department, and I think so obviously we have this biased perspective of like the amazing work that we're doing. We're really close to the ground and our nonprofits that we work with and communities. But even when we were building out this deck, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't consider ourselves until we asked ourselves these own questions and what's meaningful to us as customers and not just as employees. And I think the one thing that I thought was really interesting is like, how do you, and a lot of them are, the info is available readily, like, you know, representation on boards, yeah. As you mentioned, Alicia, like press releases, but more than just, you know, marketing, because there is a tendency these days to do a bit of impact washing, and everybody knows that impact sells. So companies are really, you know, promoting the good work that they're doing. It's like, what are the things that are happening that are more about policy? What products and services are they doing that are really meeting the needs of communities, that are like building the local economic resilience of communities? Especially like, what does it mean to bank organizations that don't have a lot of assets, that or people or individuals that are maybe lower income? Are they doing things to support that kind of community? I think that's really important. And then that sort of research has helped us to, you know, moving forward, like maintain the integrity of the programs that we do and make sure that we are meeting the needs of communities.
Definitely.
Right.
There was definitely a great post. posted question, or point rather, from Christopher, I believe it was Christopher, in regards to why he is with the financial institution that he's with. And this is great because it kind of segues into our next point, because it meets the needs of his, like it meets his banking needs. So he's with his financial institution because they offer a American account, and the organization he works for is American, so that's a way for him to be able to get paid. So this definitely goes into the second portion of our presentation. So I'm going to flip it back to Ali, who's going to speak on business objectives, and that's definitely something that we should be keeping mindful of. It's not only one-sided values. It should be meeting your business needs, or your individual needs, as well as your values. Here, let me just, I'm sorry.
Technical difficulties.
There we go.
Perfect. Again, thanks, Alicia. So, I mean, you basically gave the segue, so you can probably just jump right into the next slide, actually.
Right.
Because ultimately, right, being aligned on value is of utmost importance. But if we can't actually do our job and build our business and reach our business objectives, then unfortunately we may not have as much time, or we may not have as much money to actually invest back into the community. So we know they're all linked. So when we're talking about account needs, there are many different things that matter, right? And it really does become individual to you. So, you know, as entrepreneurs, I know that time is extremely valuable. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll be shocked if you say that's not true. You know, so convenience and flexibility become really high on the priority list. Cash flow is really important, so being able to monitor that properly, actually evaluating the number of incoming and outgoing transactions, and, you know, do you have payment processing needs? So are you going to be funneling money in and out through your bank account often? Then you might need to look at some different solutions that give you more opportunities for your customers to pay you. But, you know, when you're looking around, there are many different options, right? So there's the bricks and mortar solution where you actually go into your local financial institution branch and you can get full service right in the branch. So whether it be consultation services, so you want financial planning and you want coaching on what to do next and, you know, how to build out your cash flow statements. I mean, usually there's someone there who can help you with all of those things. Whereas if you know, like I talked about, time is of the essence, and actually going into a branch isn't very convenient for you, then there are lots of financial institutions, including ourselves, that now have online banking opportunities, but not only online banking, but even onboarding. So, you know, if you've recently signed up for a bank account, sometimes it can be a bit bulky to actually get all the paperwork ready to go into your branch and get it done, even though some people really like that. But if you're one of those people who prefer online, there are many options. And within that digital option, there's more than one. So we see some financial institutions who have like a hybrid model, who essentially you onboard and you have this virtual experience, but you have someone on the line with you the entire time, walking you through every step. So if you really like, you know, coaching and to be sure that you're doing every step correctly, then that might be a really good option for you. Or you have straight digital solutions like our current small business onboarding option, where it's 10 minutes, you fill it out, but you're all alone. I mean, if you ultimately had questions, you could call our contact center, but it's probably for the person who's just trying to get it speedy, ready to go, done. So just thinking about your account needs from an onboarding perspective, all the way to your day-to-day, looking at the different offerings. Do they have online banking? Do they have an app? Do they have a web interface that's usable for you? All those things matter when it comes to choosing the right account. Now, diving in a little bit deeper, once you have an account, looking at the fees. So I know in the past, I've certainly felt a bit gypped by certain financial institutions that I've been a part of, because there are those hidden fees Or they're not even hidden, but maybe I chose the wrong account for myself. So thinking about what kind of account you're having, what kind of monthly fee are you signing up for? And the monthly fee, there's kind of two different options if we're breaking it down into simple terms, right? You either pay a really high upfront cost to have ultimately unlimited transactions throughout the month, or you pay a low fee at your monthly fee, and then you pay per transaction. So, for example, if you're a business that you have a lot of incoming and outgoing e-transfers and payments from your customers or members or whoever they are, then you're likely going to want to pay a higher monthly fee because you have a lot of incoming and outgoing activity of your account. If you're someone who it really fluctuates month to month and it's pretty limited, then you might be someone who might consider one of the more pay-as-you-go options where you're paying a lower upfront fee, and then as you go throughout the month, then you're going to be paying a per transaction fee. And some of this sounds obvious, but you know, it's really not. And it's not hard to find the information, but it's worth looking at. Like going to look at what you're paying for, how much each transaction is costing you if you're paying for the pay-as-you-go, and really do that sort of cost analysis for which one makes sense. There are a ton of tools online to help you evaluate and compare different accounts. So I recommend checking those out. But again, thinking about when you're investing this money, where is it going? Tying it back to those values. You know, if you're spending $30 a month on a bank account, that's a lot of money cumulative over many years. So you want to make sure that you're banking with a financial institution that you feel really confident about, and of course, meeting your business objectives. So something I didn't touch on here, I talked a lot about digital options, but also, of course, if you're someone who appreciates the face-to-face contact, which I totally understand, hence why branches still exist. If you're one of those people, making sure that there's a location close to you so that it's as convenient as possible.
Okay, sorry about that. I was looking at the chat.
No problem. Were there questions in there?
No, just some points.
Okay.
Great points.
Perfect. Awesome. So, okay, big question here. How many of you, and we're going to use the thumbs up or the clap, thumbs up is a yes, clap is a no. How many of you have separate accounts that separate your personal versus your business?
Let's see.
I see one thumbs up.
Oh, I'm changing the slides.
Getting ahead.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, I see two thumbs up. That's awesome. So, you know, it really, personal preference here, but I want to share with you some reasons why we feel that there's actually a lot of benefit to you separating your personal versus business finances. So we did do some initial research. I mean, this poll showed that there are few of you who separate your finances at this time. And we actually found the same thing when we did our own research as sole proprietors and partnerships. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm curious to know for those of you who don't have bank accounts separated, why you don't, but we can come back to that. But there are a lot of benefits. So first of all, build some credibility and professionalism, whether that be with your customers or partners. If they're sending money to a personal account versus a business account, then there's that level of credibility that they really believe that, you know, they're receiving the product or service. If they're paying in advance too, just gives that level of security to those individuals. Also, it can protect your personal identity. So in case, you know, your personal information were to get hacked, or your business information were to get hacked, then you have them separated. So, you know, your personal life isn't going to influence your business life and vice versa. Also, for accurate cash flow, we all know cash is king. And so to actually ensure that we have that cash flow correct, and that you really know what's incoming and outgoing, then it can really help to have a separate business bank account. Something that some of you may or may not have reached yet is the need for money. So if you need a loan, then building up your business credit score is so valuable. So the sooner you can have a business bank account, the sooner you can do that. Also, if you're ever interested in incorporating or selling your business down the line, then it just makes it so much easier, kind of coming back to that cash flow and that audit trail and reporting. It just makes it that much simpler if they're separate. And then something that I'm not sure any of us really look forward to at the end of the year is tax season. And it really just simplifies your tax prep. Again, just coming back to that reporting. So while not necessary always, I definitely am for having separate accounts. So out of curiosity, if anyone's willing to share either in the account or out loud, why do you or do you not have your finances separated?
So there was a point that was addressed in the chat, and it was a great point in regards to fees, because business fees are usually more in comparison to personal account fees. I will say, in regards to my experience, because I worked very closely with the CEBA loans, there were many businesses that were not eligible for CEBA because they had their personal mixed with their business. And of course, no one could foresee what happened this year, but if there was that level of separation, then they would have been eligible for that money.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so more of a preparation more than anything, right? In case you want to obtain a loan or anything else.
For sure. And we definitely do recognize that the business fees are more, but maybe, and this is maybe for a different presentation in regards to budgeting, you add it as a line in your business to account for those service charges that you're going to be incurring monthly.
Yeah, and I think one more thing here is that, you know, if you ultimately need payment processing solutions and some of these other pieces that get more complex depending on your type of business, then it's going to be a lot easier to do that with a business account. And it's true that business account fees can be more expensive, but again, that kind of comes back to evaluating what your actual needs are, right? All bank accounts don't need to be expensive. I know if you don't have a lot of incoming and outgoing traffic, then for our eChequing account, it's $5 a month. And so when you really look at the different expenses that you might need to incur to run your business, $5 a month, you know, hopefully isn't going to be the tipping point. So all considerations, and you can obviously run your business using your personal, but we wanted to share reasons why and benefits that you might see if you separate your finances.
Definitely. Okay, so we're going to jump in. Oh my God, why am I having such technical difficulties? Here we go. So we're going to jump into, after you've taken the time to assess, you know, what your values are, what are your financial institutions' values, is there alignment, as well as your personal and business objectives, and you've decided, you know what, I'm ready to make the change, I'm ready to move to a new financial institution, which is not an easy decision to come by because there are many barriers in regards to why people stay with where they're at. Like Jonathan had mentioned, that was a perfect example. It meets his personal needs. There are other situations where maybe your parents opened an account at a financial institution, so they chose it for you, and you've just kept that account because you go into a branch, they know you, so there's that level of comfort and familiarity involved. But if you really take a look at the account, is it meeting your needs or have you outgrown it, right? There is this stigma around changing, or stereotype, whichever way you want to kind of preface it, in regards to moving financial institutions as being so burdensome, so administratively burdensome. And we're going to go through some of these points, but most of the time we're not seeing that you have to change all of these things. It's just a few things. If there is the scenario where you do have to move over these things, it's also a good time to take a look at what's going on in your account and maybe start that budget, which is another presentation that I did. Take a look at creating your budget because you're doing all of the legwork anyways. Gina, you have your hand up?
Sorry, that was me just clapping at the,
got it.
the video you did on budgeting. Continue.
Got it. Thanks. Okay, so just jumping right into this checklist. So the first one is, you've made the decision, you want to open a new account. Do not close your current account. And you'll see why in the next couple of steps, but that should not be your first step. A lot of people will think, oh, I want to move, again, I'm going to use Alterna. I want to open an account at Alterna. I'm going to just close my account. No, don't do that. So the first step is, you've identified that you want to open a new account. Great. Don't close anything as of yet. With that said, take a look at service charges. So take a look at your current financial institution and how much you're paying, as well as your new financial institution. So if I've just opened an account at Alterna, I don't foresee a lot of traction right now because I'm still doing that legwork to move things over. Maybe I speak to my banker, relationship manager, account manager, whatever the financial institution calls that relationship person, about pay as you go, because I don't see a lot of things coming out, and most financial institutions don't charge you for deposits. So if you foresee a lot of money coming in and not out, maybe you set up your new account with pay as you go until you've moved everything completely over. So it's just also to be mindful of those monthly service charges. Also, you wouldn't want to move all of your money over from one financial institution to the other while you're still incurring fees, because you run into the situation of being overdrawn on your account. So if your old financial institution is still charging you monthly and you've moved out all of your money and you have nothing in your account to pay for those service charges, they're going to overdraw you, which is going to negatively impact you. Second step is you open your new bank account. That's great. And then the next one is, you're going to go through your existing account. You're going to go through your online banking or your paper statement, whichever one you have, and you're going to determine any automatic deposits or withdrawals that you currently have. Make a list of existing deposits and withdrawals. With your new account being opened, you're going to capture all of your new banking numbers, account numbers, transit, routing, all of that. And now that you have this current list from your existing account, you're going to now update all of those transactions with your new banking information. You're going to update all of your direct deposit information and your direct withdrawal information with any organizations. So some key organizations to remember is CRA, direct deposit. You're going to do cell phones, internet, insurance, memberships, pension income. A lot of people have moved to direct billing. So like Bell Canada is just pulling from my account monthly. So be sure to update all of those vendors with your new banking information, because again, another situation is you don't want them to pull on your old account when your old account doesn't have money, because then you're going to become delinquent and overdrawn. Using your new account, you're going to order checks if you still work with checks. You're going to set up your debit card, apply for a credit card if you wish. I'm going to come back to that. And you're going to start using your remote services such as ATMs, mobile apps, online and telephone banking. So in regards to the credit card, you don't have to apply for a new credit card with your new financial institution. You can continue to utilize your credit card with your old financial institution if it meets your needs. Again, taking a look at service charges, fees associated with that credit card. You don't have to actually have like an account with them. You can close out your account and keep your your credit card rather with them. One thing to know and just to think about is if you've had this account for a very long time, maybe as a teenager, so when you turned 18, you applied for your first credit card, and now you've had this credit card for a decade, that is your longest credit relationship that you have. That is your longest relationship that you have on your credit bureau. Think about that when you're looking to close it out, because you no longer have this relationship on your credit bureau, and you may have a very positive relationship because you're not delinquent, you're making your bills on time, things like that. It's not required to have multiple credit cards. So just something to think about. And if you wish to apply with your new financial institution. Also, just a quick note on the checks. I don't want to dwell too long on this, but just something to also remember in regards to checks. Checks are valid for 6 months. If I was to write a check for Gina and Gina decides that she doesn't deposit it for 4 months, I have to make note of that. I need to ensure that all of my checks, I have an understanding of what checks are outstanding. Because if I give her a check and 4 months later she decides to deposit it, I have to ensure I have money in my account for that check to clear. If it does not clear, I'm going to get hit with a NSF fee, which is non-sufficient funds, which is usually around $45. That's the standard. Usually it's around $45 per financial institution. But also Gina is going to get a charge for a chargeback because they're going to say that she deposited a faulty check or there's no funds. So it's always good to be up to date in regards to what checks you have outstanding. It may be that I reach out to Gina and I say, hey Gina, I see you haven't deposited this check yet. I'm going to write you a new one on my new account, or maybe prompt her to make that deposit so I can clear up my old account and start utilizing my new one. And then the last point is get confirmation that you have closed your account. And I have an experience in regards to this. It's very important. I had a member once upon a life when I was a teller, and he came in and he was very frustrated and upset because collections was calling him, and he didn't understand why collections was calling him for this item that was around like $90, maybe $100. And what had happened is he closed his account at a financial institution and moved over to the financial institution that I was working at, but that old financial institution didn't close the account out properly, so he was incurring fees. And they weren't calling him for $5, $10, but once it like equaled $90, $100, and they saw he wasn't paying it, they sent the item to collections. Because he had his confirmation that the account was closed, he went back to that old financial institution and said, hey, you guys were supposed to close this account. I have this documentation. And then the financial institution realized they made a mistake. They called collections, had that item removed. They worked it out, had it taken off of his credit bureau because that negatively impacts you when you have something sent to collections. And they cleared the account and he didn't have to pay anything. If he did not have documentation, there's nowhere documented that that account was supposed to be closed. There was any authority given. So ensure if you are closing your account with your financial institution, you receive some kind of documentation and confirmation that it's closed. And that kind of ends off that list. But those are all tips that and points and steps that should be taken into consideration when you are switching from financial institutions. So that kind of brings us towards the end of the presentation. So we've spoken about the values and what values align with you and what you're passionate about, as well as the financial institution that you're banking with, as well as meeting your business objectives and needs. So just kind of as a wrap up, some of the questions to ask yourself, the takeaways are what other options are available. So doing the legwork and figuring out what's available, what's out there, what products and services are available. Do the products and services align with your needs? Currently what you're getting and what's out there. Does your financial institution reflect your values and what matters to you? Is there maybe another financial institution that's better suited? What steps do you need to take to move to a new financial institution? So that brings us to the end. Ali, did you have any speaking notes on that? Or?
Room for questions for sure. I'm so curious. I mean, I see the chat going wild here. It's awesome. Great questions and commentary in here. And please keep them coming. We still have 10 minutes left. Yes. I'm curious to know, after hearing our perspective on whether or not banking can be an act of activism. I'm curious to know if you agree. I also just want to mention that if there are any more questions like that you prefer to discuss on a personal level, then you can certainly reach out to Nalisha, who I know you all know well, and I'm also happy to answer questions about specific accounts. You know, like I was mentioning, we do have some really interesting digital onboarding tools as a result of COVID-19 too. We know that a lot of people have been trying to find new tools for all parts of their business. So if it does come down to your financial institution and you need some support, then I'm also here to help and answer questions. So yeah, any thought about this topic? I'm seeing more activity in here.
There's a very active chat happening here. Chris is and Jonathan as well, and thanks Lorraine as well for everyone's active participation. I don't know, Ali, if there's anything you want to address there. It seems Alia has been, just to get your names.
Yes.
Fairly active in answering the questions, but it's been really enlightening actually to learn all the different ways in which banks can really put their money where their mouth is, I suppose. I mean, it's a very good point that you raised at the very beginning around, like you can find, you know, impact washing is very real. Everyone has a CSR strategy. A lot of people are talking about the SDGs, but not everyone is really putting that into action in the policies and the way that they run their own businesses. And it's exciting to see that that seems to be baked into what Alterna is doing. So it's been great to learn about that and to hear from you. So thanks so much for taking the time. I will leave the space for folks who have more practical questions or any other observations that they'd like to share.
I'm seeing all of the questions and Alia has already beat me to it. Like, which is great.
But it's true.
Gina, I think you mentioned earlier something that I was going to mention at the end, which is kind of funny. Before I worked at a financial institution, I definitely saw banks as the bad guys, or I feel like that was just what I was told a little bit. But I think one of the takeaways that I'd like everyone to take away is, you know, banks don't have to be the bad guys. You know, if we do our research, like we've been talking throughout this, you know, conversation and really find out, I mean, no business is perfect. No person is perfect, obviously, but if we do our due diligence to make sure that we find the right bank, then they don't have to be the bad guy, right? So that has been a learning for me, especially I've been at Alterna for a year now, very proudly so, but going into it, there was definitely this level of fear because of the stigma around banks not necessarily, you know, being in your corner. So
absolutely.
My final note.
Yeah, like not to toot my own horn, when I got married, I was like, oh, no, you're coming to the credit union side. Like, sorry.
I wasn't really familiar with the difference between credit unions and banks until I started working at Alterna. Though I did have a credit union account, but it was just because that was where the rates were the best. But once you know, the more you're working in social finance, and there's so much talk about like impact investing right now, but as we look at like the history of how credit unions evolved, I'm like, that's really the original impact investment. You know, people who needed access to financing, who were being rejected by traditional institutions, and were doing good in the community, and so they put their money together and invested in themselves.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Jonathan has closed out with a great comment. Nalisha, your partners have to drink the Kool-Aid too, right?
Exactly.
But thank you so much for sharing. It's been a pleasure to hear from both of you. And if you're a hubber, you should know that Nalisha is here for you. 1 hour a week, you can reach out to her and set up a time to meet virtually if you have any questions about anything you heard today. And likewise, Jonathan, who's been active in the chat, is also our social enterprise expert in residence, who has a lot of passion for co-ops and credit unions as well. But thank you so much, all of you, for joining as participants, and of course to our partners at Alterna for providing this information. It's been so useful. if you've registered through Eventbrite, you will receive a copy of the recording, and we will also be posting this, I think, on Alterna's website so that you can take a further look and share the word. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.